Oh, it's a frog. I don't know. It looked kind of like a frog or a crab or something. Anyway, what I have are what I call blockers. These are essentially 3D printed blocks. And I'm not going to say that they look like something because I'm not sure. I'm just going to shut my mouth on that and just, these are not affiliated or inspired or related by anything else. Anyway, as you can see on the bottom, they do not look like them. Do not even start. um, you could 3D print these for free if you want. I'll just put them up. There's a link in the description, and there's lots of them. Here, I've got a few different types. We could see here's a 2x2, here's a 1x2, and here's a 4x1. I've got them all the way up to 6x6. They're pretty much any shape you can imagine, except they take a lot of time and a lot of filament to print. Well, kind of. Anyway, I think these are great. I don't know about you. Originally, I was trying to hypothesize, like, hey, how feasible would it be to? Because what does that look? Oops, what does that look like? That looks like a brick, a bunch of bricks, right? Like this, I'm building with bricks. I was thinking, what if I 3D printed my own bricks to build stuff with? Well, turns out that making an average sized brick pretty much requires, like, I'm not gonna say a kilogram of filament or something, but let's just say it takes a lot of filament. And I thought, well, what if we made tiny little bricks? You see, like this. This is kind of cool, right? I mean, I reckon it's kind of cool. Now, one thing you do have to be careful about these bricks is that sometimes you will get some that are defective. Sometimes you have to kind of wear them in a little as well. So what I mean is, like, sometimes the bottoms are messed up. Sometimes the tops are messed up. You want to print them in certain ways. For example, print them a little hotter. Like I use PLA for these. I don't know if PETG is any better or whatever. It might be actually. But I have to see this one. This one doesn't seem to want to connect. I'm sure if I, really forced it, it would. But you want to print them a little hotter. Yeah, and because you want these little top buttons, you really want them to stay on, because the amount of ones that I've see, I'll show you my graveyard pile. These are either tests of different length, or they are failures. As we can see here, it's ripped clean. Here it has ripped clean off. Here's one there. And I'm sure some of these I could salvage. Some of them, I've made them a bit larger, as we can see. And the larger ones are no good. While they do snap nicely, they tear themselves off. Point being, there is a lot of trial and error in these things. Now, this is the size that I think is, I mean, they're kind of, you can see my hand. I got a big hand, so, But, it's kind of, these are like really nice and big and like kind of cool. I don't have a whole lot of them, so, I've just, well, I guess I have I have a lot of broken ones. But no, not too many not broken ones. Anyway, I don't know, maybe you can make boxes out of these, or make little structures or figures, or whatever you want. Or you could just really, I thought they'd work as a children's toy. Like, I don't really have the money to justify buying something like Lego. I used to love playing with Lego when I was young. I don't have the money to do that. Even if I did have the money to do that, I probably would be investing that money, just keeping it real, just financially. So instead, you could buy a bunch of filament and print your own. Oh shit! I said the word. Excuse my language. Yeah, This isn't Lego, right? Don't come after my ass. I'm not. What looks suspiciously like another block thing is this. Now these, I haven't really prototyped as much as the other ones. You can see the size difference. So this I did 50% smaller, and it looks suspiciously like the other one. Now, is it 50% smaller? I mean, technically, I guess since it's half, you can see that it's half the size. Maybe I could just do 75% smaller or something. I don't know. That might actually be better. But it looks suspiciously like another block-based system. Again, please don't come after my ass for that. But anyway, it's just to show you that you can make them a bit smaller if you want. As I said, in the slicer, I just did 50% smaller, and then we can make them like this. You know, maybe you want to use these to make, I don't know, you know, like war game terrain or something. You can probably just print off a bunch of these and make blockades and walls and, you know, whatever. As I said, like, I always thought, you know, once I have kids, I'll just make them toys like myself, you know. And this is kind of one of those things. Like, I don't really have the time to, you know, play around with blocks or anything. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If you want to, you know, if you have the time and you want to do that, really, like, I look at block toys and such as engineering tools now. They really are just engineering tools. You know, what I'm doing just by like putting things in different shapes. It's like I'm exploring geometry is the best way to say it. Really, you know, that's what I found was really cool with these things, is that you can just explore geometry. You can just put them in different shapes and sizes, and, you know, do all kind. Oh, see that? Yeah, there's a certain way. There's this. I don't know if that. Nope, that didn't snap. There is a certain way you want to put them together and take them apart gently, of course. You know, if I just push on that, it's gonna snap probably. So instead, I, you know, take it from the bottom.
Okay, so if you want to get the download, go to my website, which is in the description at kurenai5000.github.io/personal/website/index.html, and then go to downloads, and then go to video downloads, and we'll see here right in August, Blokoz Set 1 Standard 1 free 3D printable block system. You click the hyperlink and it'll come up with a zip download, and then you just open the zip. I assume either your computer can open zip files. If not, then you just have to download 7-zip, which is a free software to open it, and then you'll have both the STL and the Blender files used in Blender, and STL is used in using a slicer, which I use Cura Slicer. Alright, so if you download the Blokoz Set 1 Standard 1, which is essentially just blocks all the way up to 6x6, and we also have some special ones, and of course the archetypal block is if you want to make your own, because these are kind of, I'll show you in a minute in Blender. And then of course the STL files, this is the main area that you will use. You'll just drag these into your slicer software. Otherwise, well, I've included the blend files to use in Blender if you want to, you know, edit them or, you know, do whatever you want. So here we are in Blender. As I said, the archetypal block here has this cube. You can see, so it's essentially a cube with a top area, and the top and the bottom are both around 3 mil. You'll have to 10x this when you export it. So the original block is 10 millimeters, and the holes, or the, you know, the negative and positive, the hole in the connector is 3. I found 3 worked well. 2 was a little too, didn't connect very well, and 4 was a little bit too much. I still think there is room for improvement, and I would like to keep developing this when I have the time. And you'll notice that the top one is, you can see that it is 200 micron smaller side to side, and then like what, 130 micron smaller here. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The reason I've made the top one smaller is so that it fits in easier. Otherwise, it pretty much welds itself in if they're the same size. If it's a little bit too much smaller than this, it doesn't fit well, though potentially I could make them like maybe another 100 or 200 microns smaller. That would work well. And then what I do is I attach all of these together and make the one by one block. And you can see here in the scene view, we've just got a block. And then pretty much what I do to make the blocks is I go copy, paste, move it up, copy, paste, move it around, copy, paste, etc. So if you want to make your own, you can do that any size you want, essentially. Now, let's take a look at what we have here. So, as I said, we've got a 1 by 1. We have a 1 by 2, which looks like so, all the way up to 6, 1 by 6. So everything is up to 6, and then we have a 2 by 2. And the 2 by 2 again goes up to, like, here's 2 by 4. Here's 2 by 6. Again, as we can see. Then we have again a 3 by 3. 3 by 3 goes up to 6. It's 3 by 4, 3 by 5, 3 by 6. As you can see, it looks like a chocolate bar. And we have 4 by 4. Again, it goes up to 4 by 6. We have 5 by 5, as we see here. And this is, you'd probably, if you want to use the bigger ones, you're probably going to have to make them smaller in your slicer, because it's going to cost a lot of PLA. You can see here, this is 112 centimeters by, I guess, 12 centimeters, which is a lot of stuff. I mean, you could print it. It's not like you can't. Anyway, then we also have the L blocks. And the L blocks go up to 3 by 3. So these don't go up to 6 by 6. They only go up to 3 by 3. We have T blocks, which is, looks like a T. Again, goes up to 3 by 3. And then we have X blocks, which are all like square, actually no, cross X blocks. You see, it looks like an X. So that is your full set. And let's go into Cura. Okay, so here I'm on Ultimaker Cura, and I'll open my STL files list. And then, for example, we'll put the 1 by 1 block, which here, you can, if we slice it, and mind you, I'm using a Neptune Pro 4 with a 0.4 millimeter nozzle, and this currently is, I don't have it fully filled, but I would recommend going to your fill setting, the infill density, and putting it as 100. Reason being is that when we get to see these layers here, 30 to 30, 33 to 34, we want this to be as stable as possible and to really attach itself properly. Now, depending on your printer and your material will depend on if you need to do this kind of stuff or not. And we can see I do have a support. Does it need one? It probably actually doesn't need a support. I don't know. I've always printed it with a support, so, and my density is pretty, I usually have it a little more, but I was printing something that needed low density, so I might actually take off support for this. I'm not sure. It's up to you. Also, as I said, nozzle temperature, printing temperature, I've got it at 105, 205. Usually it's 200. You could go up to 210 even. Now, mind you, the higher the printing temperature, the more strong and welded together the layers are, but eventually you should really do a test. Actually, you should print the 1x1 Bloko and test how high you can go. For me, 215, 220, I think was as high as I could go, and it would start to warp. At that point, I would have to sand the block to make it usable, because the top would just be warped, but it was very strong. Because again, mind you, the settings that you use to do this, the reason why I'm telling you this is because you do not want this top button to rip off, and you don't want the top layer, this top square to rip off either, which is why I said full infill is recommended. Higher temperature is also recommended. Play around if you do or don't need supports. I'm pretty sure well, I don't know, it depends, because you do want that bottom to be nice. So play around, see if it does or it doesn't work. I'll test one later on without support. Otherwise, that should be fine. You see, it's 5 grams per, at least for full fill, 5 grams in 7 minutes. So that's what you're looking at. For each block, for example, if we do a 1x6 here, and you slice, it's 30 grams and then 37 minutes, which is a long time for a little block. It's actually not that little. It's, what is that, 12 by 2 centimeters by, I think, 12. Now, as I said, we can go here to the scaling area, we'll snap it, and we do 50%, and then reslice. Now it only needs 4 grams. Now, the way that it scales, it goes from 30 grams and 47 minutes to 15 grams, and, I mean, sure, you could work that out mathematically, but it's like halving it in every dimension, which is shrinking it quite a lot. This potentially, I haven't designed it to be used at this smaller size. It does work, but you may need to adjust the size of the positive and negative connectors. If we do 75, for example, maybe if you're trying to prototype a structure, it probably is a smarter idea to print these smaller at maybe 75, anywhere from like 60 to 80. It's probably smarter to do that, unless maybe you're okay with spending an entire day and a couple hundred, maybe like 500 grams of filament. Otherwise, it's really up to you. Again, if we look at, we got 2x6, again, starting, again, looks like a bit of a chocolate bar here. You can see that, again, this is 1 hour, 11 minutes, 60 grams of PLA. It's starting to get a lot. Personally, I like the 1x2s. I just, if I could print a bunch of them like that, 2.5 hours, that's not too bad, and 120 grams of PLA. That gives you a little bit to mess around with and test if you want to do that. It's not a perfect system. It's not a perfect thing. It's a little bit of fun, if you want something that's a little bit of fun. Or again, if you want to spend an entire day and maybe a kilogram of, $25 worth of PLA to print a bunch of blocks, maybe you've got kids or something, and you want to get them some blocks or something. $25 in a day or two is really not much to passively, maybe while you're doing something, is not much of an investment. Or, as I said, you can use these, like I made these specifically that you can actually use to like build stuff with. Again, look at that, 3.5 hours, nearly 200 grams of PLA. Now, admittedly, if your printer can handle less fill, and I have to use gyroid, none of these, or maybe one other, Cross, hang on, is it called Cross? Yeah, Cross kind of works, Gyroid is not very good for your printer just because it shakes it, and it's just, yeah, it's a bit crazy. But I have to use it. If you don't have to use that, and you can use cubic or lines or something else as an infill pattern, there we go. See, it's 2 hours now and 71, which is pretty much half of what we're looking at. So it's a little bit better. Again, this is the biggest block. This is a big block. That's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, yeah, 12 by 12 centimeters, which is like, it's like a hand. It's like nearly 2 hands put together, you know. That's like 2 decent sized hands. That's a big field of something, right? Again, if you want to make little model houses or something, I don't know, maybe we can make like triangle blocks. You could edit one. Really, I tried to make a system, and mind you, it's a work in progress. The system is this connector. The system is this little, you know, circle connector piece. Like, I'm trying to think, how do you connect something? How do you make it movable? There's a lot of different connector ideas, you know, 3D printer connectors ideas. You know, how do you make it strong? Like, this one is fairly robust and strong. As long as you know, do it properly. There's, as I said at the beginning, there's a bad way to do it, and there's a good way to connect it. A bad way to connect it, good way to connect it. I had this idea for like an action figure pack. Here's a little wizard. I actually did 3D print it. You will have to, well, do you have to use support in this? I think for a couple areas you'll have to. But you can see it's got a connector for the base bit for it, right? So I've had ideas on 3-dimensional blocks, little figures, you know. Again, if you were playing like a tabletop game, or you were you need like models, geometrical models to show space or something, you know, indicate people or something, you could probably use these. And the point being is that you can do more. You can do more with this. I spent like a couple of days on it when I had some time off my work, so I haven't spent much time, any more time, just because I don't really have the time anymore, unfortunately. Right now, at least. Yeah, I don't know. It's a funny little idea, I guess.